The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
I was very grateful that we got to push this back a little bit because moments before I put my kids down for their nap yesterday, I am we're doing the song, George Michael, Kissing a Fool every time, just like a shortened version.
Sure. Of course.
I want them to know heartbreak and ease as they get older. But they, I'm like, hold it, like we're singing, and I just see like a spot on the floor all of a sudden. And at first I thought my kid had a runny nose. No, a bloody nose. Out of nowhere, which is possible, but always feels like in the kind of like abstract until it happens.
Yeah, it feels like it's really, really common, but it always feels like an emergency. It's
right.
It's just
see.
It's hard to reconcile that one is mundane.
Yes. Right, Daniel. Yeah. I will admit to both of you, I've never had a bloody nose in my entire life. So if that were to ever happen to me, I really do think like my brains were falling out.
Yeah, the conclusion that this is like really special. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever had one. I mean, I've been hit, I probably, but I don't know if I've ever had a bloody nose, like a proper bloody nose.
Yeah.
I've only had one to my recollection, and fittingly enough, it was backyard wrestling with my brothers and a couple friends. Somebody threw a garbage can at me, a plastic one, and the rim hit me right here. Like it was either right below the nose or right above the nose, and just like immediate.
So you came by it earnestly. That's a real one.
Yes.
Backyard wrestling.
But fun little side note, because I brought this up when I was blue skying about it yesterday. I'm strictly a blue sky guy now.
Me too now, yeah.
It's just that way. But what you do, because I remember growing up at one point, we're in an Applebee's, some kid comes up to our table and thanks my dad for his help. And we were like, what is that about? And he's like, I went to the bathroom. Kid was having a bloody nose. I told them to put keys down the back of his shirt because that stops the bloody nose. And it worked. And for years.
Like Keys. Keys.
Yes. Or a butter. They'll say yes. So
explain.
Something about the metal reacting to the metal in our blood, which we'll get. This is perfect for. We're gonna have some Magneto talk later.
This is unreal.
It stops it completely. So I'm freaking out already because there's blood flowing from my child's face, and my first thought is, I have to go get keys. Hold on, and I run downstairs, get my keys, put them on his back, just like that. Like it just stops.
Really?
What?
Yes. There's my understanding of science suggests that this is a coincidence.
Yeah, okay. I would think so as well.
Okay, so I will admit I just Googled it because that's the age we live in, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
While not scientifically proven, many people do believe that placing cold keys against the back of the neck can help stop a bloody nose, as the cold temperature constricts blood vessels due to a reflex similar to the mammalian dive reflex. So there you go. Welcome to
if we had started by citing the mammalian dive reflex, I would have been more dialed in. Yeah. Because that extensive research on that. Oh, by the way, this is Somewhere in the Ring. We're a podcast where we talk about wrestling and bloody noses. I think that connects. I am Andrew Sanford, joined as always by my wonderful co-host Ryan Sprague, and this week we have a very special guest, Daniel Kibblesmith. Hello, Daniel. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. This is so funny how this came together, by the way. I'm so happy this is happening.
Oh, how did this come together? Please tell me, because I'm so happy I found your work, Daniel.
If I recall, I was on, I think Blue Sky. I was on social media, and I think I said something to the effect of Finn Balor Swift. Is that anything? And then underneath, like, I know it's not anything. Coming clean, demonstrating enough self-awareness to indicate that I shouldn't have posted it to begin with. But I believe you guys then contacted me saying like, oh, like Daniel must be a wrestling fan. There's so much overlap in comics and media and stuff, and I'm not. I've seen a lot of wrestling. I've seen a lot of wrestling, but I watch like a little bit of wrestling like every 10 years.
Nice.
It'll come up when I had roommates. I saw a little bit of the Raw that I think we're going to end up talking about today a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm not a wrestling fan, but I'm in the comics community. So like I pick up little stuff, the same way that my toddler learns swear words. I just hear Finn Balor and repeat it out of context.
Yep.
Love it.
And it was a mix because there was that, but also we were mutuals in the bad place. And then we became Blue Sky Mutuals. And I saw you post something about wanting to do podcasts. And I was like, Kermit Frog hands immediately like
me do one of those.
Let me send an email. I've never responded to something more quickly in my life. So
I'm very grateful. Thank you. And that is 100% correct. That I had enough comic books coming out today. In fact, as of this recording, coming out, I very much wanted to be able to tell people about it. So thank you for having me.
Bud, thank you for joining us. Because you have been up to a lot in your life, as we would hope most human beings would be. A lot of writing for like Colbert, things like that. For folks at home, what should they know about you aside from how awesome you are and that you're a girl dad, which is also great.
Oh, I love both of these. Yeah, that's a reference to my hat for the audio people, for the people who are driving.
Thank you for doing that for us. We forget to do that sometimes.
Never. I love leaving them out in the cold, specifically.
Yeah, who cares? It's your fault for not looking at my pretty face,
right?
Yeah, primarily a girl dad. That's the resume. No, I'm a television writer. I write for comics. I've written for most of the major comic book companies, including but not limited to Marvel and DC, Valiant Comics, where I started, Archie, Boom, places where I get to do a lot of fun things, and some really fun IP stuff coming up. Including a Rick and Morty miniseries paperback that's coming out from Oni in March. And today's Dynamite Entertainment's Powerpuff Girls holiday special. And next February's Dynamite Entertainment's Darkwing Duck ongoing. So I'm tremendously excited. And I really appreciate the timing that I can finally start talking about this with people.
Yay!
But yeah, no, I write comedy. I've written for the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. I've written for some Netflix animation projects, including Inside Job and some stuff that won't come out for many, many years because animation works that way.
Yeah.
The Onion, Clickhole, a lot of internet projects, and my whole life, very much wanted to, in writing comedy and narrative and stories for a national audience, comic books was always a really important goal and a really important part of that. So very, very, very lucky and proud for it to be such a big part of my career at this moment.
Oh yeah, man.
That's awesome. A true man makes his luck, right? Billy Zane.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Billy Zane, very specifically. Not even a character he played. Billy Zane will walk around and say that to everybody.
Sure. Like at Starbucks and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've got a drink for real man makes
over here. That's my cortato.
Well, Daniel, I would love to ask you. So, Inside Job. I got to get this in here.
Yeah, sure.
I have you here.
Netflix Animation's Inside Job.
Yes.
Now
I'm a UFO guy. I host a UFO podcast.
Hell yeah.
Conspiracy theory is my bag, man. To an extent. Not the weird, really.
No, I understand. I'm also in this world, and you always have to caveat with it, like, oh, it's the fun ones.
The fun conspiracy theory. Exactly.
Yeah. It's not the blood libel stuff. It's like it's the low stakes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a whole conversation in itself. But I'd love to know, like, what what got you onto that project? Like, what kind of research did you have to do with it? I saw that you actually wrote the teleplays for quite a few of the episodes too, and everything. So
Yeah, a handful of credited scripts. Yeah.
cool. So yeah, tell us a little about that project if you don't mind.
No, I'd love to. I'm very, very proud of Inside Job. It is, I say now streaming. We live in the streaming environment. So what I mean is that it's canceled, but you can go watch it. I was writing for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, but I had done a lot of various kind of internet comedy projects, fake Twitter accounts when that was a thing. I did a very illegal comic strip called Garf Burt, where Garfield lives with Dilbert. And I was, it's at garfburts.com. You shouldn't go. But I was very visible online, and I got friendly with Alex Hirsch, creator of Gravity Falls and the executive producer of Inside Job, who at the time was still, I think, fairly new as a fixture of Netflix animation. And we were looking for something that we could do together, that this might be an opportunity for me to make the jump from talk shows to narrative shows, which is ultimately, what I wanted to do and what I went to school for. And he brought me out to interview with the creator of Inside Job, Shion Takeuchi, who is also a conspiracy head, is also obviously into this stuff, hopefully in the non-harmful way that we all aspire to. So we'd been circling each other for a while, waiting for my resume to get in a good place where you can justify hiring your buddies from the internet. But I grew up, obsessed with conspiracy lore as well. I think that a lot of people my age, especially young people who were obsessed with like the X-Files and Alien Autopsy and Fire in the Sky. Like I think that there it is, the Fox nameplate. That I came of age during a time of a lot of like low stakes political atmosphere, a lot of complacency, a lot of millennial countdown angst. It was a really interesting time culturally, this kind of pre 9/11 era where you didn't have, well, I don't want to say nobody had problems, but on the whole, we were, for whatever reason, devoting a lot of energy to fake problems.
Right.
And I was one of the many young people who was really captivated by the idea of conspiracy theories and the supernatural and psychic phenomena and all that stuff. So I read Mothman prophecies and various like Jim Mars and John Keel and books about remote viewing and like all this stuff that I don't believe really, but at the time was just obsessed with. So Robert Anton Wilson and the Luminatus trilogy and things like that. So I already, like Shion, like Alex, had this kind of cushion of garbage in my head, to capitalize on. So I would have written for any animated show that had asked me, and especially one by these people. But it was really exciting to get to be like, of course I want to talk about JFK getting killed by other JFK clones, or the Buzz Aldrin run dystopia on the moon. It was really fun.
You guys hit everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
One last question about
group therapy.
Yes, sorry. I love that one. Yeah. So in the show, you actually use like so many like A-list celebrities as characters and whatnot. How did that work? I was like astounded. Like, did they have to give approval for things like that, or is it under some like sort of parody loophole thing, or how does that work?
Oh, you mean the A-list celebrities who did not play themselves,
Yes,
the A-list
correct.
celebrities that we like humiliated and butchered.
Yeah.
Yes. So the shortest look, I'm obsessed with two things: conspiracy theories and copyright and trademark law.
Sounds right. Yeah,
these
as
are
what should be.
these are the backup careers. They're both going poorly. But my understanding of this, the short answer to this, is that they're public figures, and that parody law is fairly broad,
Gotcha.
and that this is America, so you can't really stop anybody from bringing a frivolous lawsuit about anything at any time. If you make an enemy and they can afford to bankrupt you, they will, regardless of the defense of fair use, which is again, I don't know if everybody knows this. Fair use is not like a shield that protects you. It's a defense that you can deploy,
Right.
that may or may not help.
Right. Yeah.
But no, my understanding of this is it's just like Simpsons. It's just like Family Guy. It's just like these are public figures. It's obviously falls under parody and satire, and if they wanted to make a big deal out of it, they probably could. But everything is just about the balance of like good taste to sort of cost benefit ratio.
Right.
Cool.
It's a long and pretentious way of saying that I've never been sued. Shouldn't say that out loud. Shouldn't say that out loud.
Right.
Just inviting
it. Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I had to get that in there because I'm going to start the campaign to get the show back. But Andrew, please.
Oh no, I was going to look. You're picking up the Darkwing Duck mantle in February, which is very exciting. Look at those covers. Come on, I love a good cover.
Oh, that is a nostalgic one. Oof.
And the one on the far right is the weirdy. That's Mark Bagley of all people.
Oh, cool! Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, yeah,
unreal. So all of the covers obviously are out of this world. All of the Branton Stein interiors and covers are out of this world. The creator of Darkwing Duck, Tad Stone, is back doing covers, which really feels like a blessing. Really makes this all feel very real and very official all of a sudden. But that being said, Nate Cosby, the editor on this project, the person who brought me on board, he and I geeked out hard over the Mark Bagley cover because it's just not an artist you expect to do something like this. And what we're finding is that that's true of a lot of the people, is that this is just something that we all kind of grew up with, and we haven't had an opportunity to work on until now.
That's very cool. And I feel like a lot of those guys just like to work, kind of a thing, and you just have to ask, but it's always intimidating to ask.
Yeah, no, definitely so. But they are waiting to be asked. Yeah, I mean that's one of the great things about working in comics and also convention culture is that they really do want you to come up and start talking. Everybody is very accessible, very excited about collaborating.
Yeah. Nice. So when did you have to pitch the series whole cloth, or was it something where they had a set idea of what they wanted before they brought you in?
In this case, and this is the case with most of my projects, it's some combination of both. Sure. I'm finding, especially with larger properties, IP and the big two superheroes, is that it's a lot like a movie studio sort of having a slate. Like they have an idea of the kinds of things that they want to bring out. Like a few years back, it was like, oh, this is going to be like a big Inhumans year, that kind of thing. So they have a sort of roadmap when they start talking to creators, and this was the case here. I saw that new Darkwing stuff was being announced, and I'm just such a big fan, lifelong fan. Sorry, my wife came and visited me for a moment.
No worries.
Oh, that's okay.
I asked Nate via DMs. I said, "Do you have room for me to do like a one shot on Darkwing, just to check that bucket list?" And he said, "Not really, but like we're doing a new ongoing. Like you could be much more valuable if you are available for more Darkwing." And obviously, yes, that was the best possible answer to that question. So he knew that it was like coming back with a new #1. at some point. And, we've been working on it behind the scenes for a very long time, getting the project right, getting the timing right. And he knew that he wanted it to be, or, that the company was envisioning it as a sort of not an origin story, but, like an early years kind of year one inspired, Untold Tales of Spider-Man inspired,
sure.
like very much something that is compatible with the continuity of the show, which is already, very muddled.
Yeah.
But something that could fit in the cracks of Darkwing as it exists, and not really commits one way or another to like a definitive story, but create something that just fits in with all of the episodes.
Cool.
And is this going to be an ongoing narrative, more of a like each issue you get your own adventure, or again some kind of like combination of the two situation where it's like, oh, I could pick up number 3 and still know what's going on, but if I have already read 1 and 2, I will probably get a bigger picture?
That is a great question. I read all of the extant, Darkwing Duck comics, which is hard. Because a lot of this stuff is out of print, but there's a lot of really excellent Darkwing Duck comics out there. And one thing that I noticed is that those writers really took an opportunity to do like a comic book. They're serialized stories. They're doing the kinds of things that you could sort of only do in comics.
Sure.
And once I saw that had been done really successfully, I thought, like, great, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go in the other direction. And each one of these is going to be an episode of the show.
Cool.
Every issue of this is going to be my audition to write for Darkwing Duck in 1991. So every episode, and it's an ongoing. As long as people keep buying them, we get to keep making them. So I do have a very broad sort of serialized background story, which is that issue 1 establishes that this is Darkwing Duck's quest to get an archenemy, to get a definitive archenemy, because he's writing his autobiography. He's a deeply unreliable narrator, and obviously exaggerates all of his exploits. And in writing his autobiography, he realizes that the greatest heroes are defined by their villains, their Jokers and their Moriartys, and other names I'm not allowed to say in a Disney comic, but you get what I'm invoking. Yeah. So every issue is a self-contained adventure in the style of the Darkwing Duck television show. New story, classic villain, beginning, middle, and end. If you miss number 2 and pick up number 3, it's not a problem. But if you read our entire first arc, it will loosely be about Darkwing auditioning his rogues gallery to see who's going to get the number 1 spot, who's going to be Darkwing Duck's archenemy.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's so much fun. I know Dynamite has been great kind of picking up IPs that are kind of perfect for comics, and kind of be, I know they were doing James Bond for a little bit. They might still be Flash Gordon, stuff like that. Do you have like a dream crossover in your mind that you might try to push?
A dream crossover,
like Darkwing teams up with the Shadow. I feel like that might work well. Like,
very
good
pulpy.
comparison. Yeah,
that's great. Because I just saw that they're doing Powerpuff Girls and Thundercats.
Ooh, that's cool.
Which is so. Now that we know that we can go full Galaxy Brain on this stuff, I'm gonna pick another high-profile Dynamite title.
Go to commercial break. Commercial break! Commercial break! Go to commercial! Commercial break!
Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan Sprague here from Somewhere in the Ring, and Andrew and I just wrapped an awesome episode of the podcast. We can't wait to share it with you soon, but before we do that, we need your help. We need your ratings and reviews. Specifically, on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, the two largest platforms in the world to get podcasts. Now, we are a small independent podcast, and we are going up against some pretty big hitters in the wrestling world. So in order to get featured, in order for us to find new listeners and gain visibility, we need your help. And that starts with a rating and a review over on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It takes just a couple moments, but it means the world of difference to us. So from Andrew and I, thank you so much for your unwavering support. We can't wait to keep doing the show, and we hope you will consider a rating and review for us somewhere in the ring.
I'm gonna pick another high-profile Dynamite title that's coming out at the moment. Say Darkwing and Space Ghost, because Space Ghost is another bucket list character for me. And there's a little bit of outer space stuff in Darkwing Duck. You know, there's a little bit of like kind of a riff on like the blowing up Krypton and the Superman origin in Darkwing Duck. So it'd be really cool to break out some of those designs. And play with the sort of like the dubious origin story of Darkwing Duck as somebody who was born on another planet, and rope the Space Ghost gang into it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ah, man. All right. Well, we'll just keep saying that.
That's manifesting. We're
Yes.
manifesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the secret. Is that what that book was? I think that's
The
what
secret.
That book was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's and then just quickly, because we will be talking about some Marvel stuff in a sec. You have a Tales to Astonish that's out today. You have an Xmen Christmas story.
Hi, sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
This is Jennifer Wright. This is my wife.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Our kid has uncontrollable diarrhea.
Oh, she's sick again.
Oh,
Are you getting her? Or do you need me to?
oh.
I picked her up from school, but I was going to have lunch with Akila at noon. If I pick her up,
Yep.
Can you wrap this up?
Yep. We'll be done at noon.
Okay.
Okay.
Slightly before noon.
We're done slightly before noon. Okay. All right.
Okay, bye.
Feel
We
better.
talked about
I hope
this
they
a
feel
lot.
better.
About our beautiful, beautiful daughter's explosive diarrhea.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. Mine had I have a.
It's been going on for weeks.
Okay.
I love you.
I love you too.
We had a bloody nose in this house yesterday. There's a lot going around.
No, I don't care if she has dysentery. Yeah, they don't do Oregon Trail anymore. All right, bye. I apologize. It seems like this is going to have to be a bit of a lightning round. I'd say
Dude,
That's okay.
probably
That's
about
okay.
20.
We can burst through.
We can
20,
totally.
25
Yeah.
minutes.
Oh yeah. No,
Of
yeah.
course.
That's totally fine.
That's what
fine.
editing's for.
Totally
No
understand.
worries.
Yeah. No, you should keep all of that. That's you have my full permission to use
To
that
keep
in
all
any
that?
way that improves
Excellent.
that improves.
I
the
was
show.
not expecting Oregon Trail to show up in this interview, so thank you to you and your wife.
I mean,
Yeah.
everything I've said today is just 90s kid.
Okay.
Like, X-Files, Darkwing Duck, Oregon Trail. Let's go.
Yeah.
I
Explosive
peaked at
explosive diarrhea.
11.
Yes. All right. So, Tales to Astonish. Everybody go buy it. The Holiday Tales to Astonish.
It's so great. It's a Kitty Pryde Hanukkah story set during the Claremont Byrne era, and it
Excellent.
fits. Yeah, it fits right into continuity. It's actually very similar in some ways to the Darkwing stuff. That I love. You know, some of my favorite stories ever are like those Alan Moore DC stories where he's like, here's a Green Lantern adventure that just like happened between the cracks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that that's one of the real joys of writing in these universes is, you know, there's different ways to make them bigger, and sometimes it's not expanding, sometimes it's filling in blanks. And it's such an honor to be trusted with that.
And even getting a little smaller too. I feel like that gets overlooked sometimes. Like there's some people have taken those smaller stories and taken like a small detail and turned it into huge events and things like that, which look, I like that stuff too. But it's always fun when you can be like, here's an issue about why, like just a nice little personal story about like what Hanukkah means to Kitty Pryde, or like how she shares that with everybody in the X Mansion. So I love that kind of stuff. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Same.
Very,
Some
very
of my
cool.
favorites come out of these anthologies. They're very intimate. I get
Yes.
characters in street clothes, which I always really. Anybody who reads my comics know that I refuse to put them in their superhero costumes.
So we can expect to see Darkwing Duck rocking some khakis and a nice sensible button up.
He's the exception, because the Drake Mallard costume is just so mild. It's so nothing. Darkwing is going to be in his costume a lot. That's the exception that proves the rule.
So if you want, very quickly, I know you said you are not a wrestling fan. What was your experience as a 90s kid with pro wrestling? Where I feel like if you were a kid in the 90s, you had no choice but to take some in by like osmosis.
Yeah, that's a great segue. Yeah, because the Attitude Era was so inescapable. So when I was in high school, this would have been, late 90s, late 90s into the early 2000s. I did watch a lot. I had friends who were really into it. And, we watch the pay-per-views and go to the house shows and things like that. And is a very old sentence, but I used to watch ECW on Channel 26 in Chicago on a black and white TV in my room. And that is exactly how you're supposed to watch wrestling.
Yeah.
Specifically ECW.
Specifically ECW.
With your Surge soda.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Flipping a pog in the air, not a
the
care
first
in the
time
world.
I saw, yep. I remember very vividly the first time I saw the trailer for The Matrix was in black and white on my little bedroom TV watching ECW.
Wow.
So I would watch a lot of that stuff, and then fell off of it in college. Like wrestling is not, I would never call it a fad, but there's like mini fads in it. There's eras where it's huge, and really reclaims monoculture, and then kind of recedes and returns. But I liked it. Yeah, we went to a lot of shows together, and it was a big part of my friendships with these people in my social circle. And then fell off of it, moved on to other hobbies and things. But the thing that I really love about wrestling, and I'm very close with Josie Reisman, who wrote the Vince McMahon book.
Oh, excellent!
Which I really, really, really recommend. And she and I used to go to shows together and stuff. It was really fun to watch the fandom develop of somebody who was going to be like a national expert on this.
Sure. Yeah.
But the thing that she does a really good job of, I think, explaining to the normies is the lingo. And the way the lingo is, loaded with like culture and intent and like, manipulation. And so I think that obviously our society is so full of like, it runs on sports metaphors, even if you don't use sports, but not so much a wrestling fan as like I don't know if there's like a better like shorthand vernacular than wrestling vernacular, Mark, smart, kayfabe.
Yep, it's a work.
Cheap, work, cheap heat.
Yep.
There's so many. So I find myself, just by virtue of like spending any amount of time in this world, it is such a useful way of navigating culture. And I think that's that aspect. Wrestling in general, I think, is really underappreciated as an art form and a phenomenon. But that aspect of it in particular, I think, is so useful in my life. To be able to say, like, to be able to describe somebody as a smark in a non-wrestling context is so helpful. So I watched it then, and the thing I reached out to you guys about was that when I had roommates 10 years ago, I did watch 1 hour of Raw, where and it opens with the Wyatts. I want to say the Wyatt brothers.
Oh, okay, sure. Yep.
It's 6 days to some kind of pay-per-view. John Cena has very recently been betrayed by some kind of online poll. That I rewatched the first hour of it, and it's
betrayal.
It's the most, that's the other thing about wrestling, is that if you watch wrestling from 1988, it is very 1988. You watch wrestling from 2014, it's very 2014.
Yes.
It made me feel the time that had passed in a way that's hard to do with memories that to me feel very recent.
Mhm.
So there were a lot of commercials for the network, a lot of commercials for the streaming network, and John
Which
Cena
just closed completely for the
Yep.
finally.
is
Literally
gone. Like,
shuttered. Yep.
I didn't
The
know
last
that it
leg- the
lasted
last-
quite as long as it
I
did.
know.
Oh, it lasted
Crazy.
and then was sold to Peacock in an enormous deal. Like,
Because
and
I
that was one
rewatched
of-
it on Peacock. I had to do some Googling
Mhm.
to figure out what replaced the network.
Yeah.
That was
Peacock,
basically Peacock kind of bought it, and that's been a huge boon for them. So much so that's why Netflix then, starting January, everything will be on Netflix, or most.
Yeah,
of it will
no,
be on
I'm
Netflix.
not surprised. Like, inflating the value of this thing. It's a fascinating business and company. I mean, as we all know.
Mhm.
So that the last Raw that I saw was 10 years ago. I only watched the first hour and then I got bored. And the same thing happened when I rewatched it yesterday. I watched the first hour and then I got bored. But it opens with the Wyatts confronting Cena in a cage with a children's choir wearing plastic sheep masks.
Yeah.
And it's extraordinary. And and I didn't know who the Wyatts were when I saw them for the first time. And my roommate said, okay, so their gimmick roughly is they're like True Detective season 1 guys.
Bingo. Yep.
Like a Southern
They are the Yellow King.
Gothic.
Like,
Yep. Like a little bit of Lovecraftian, something's going on in the shadows.
Mhm.
Really, really clever and really, really specific in a way that I feel like wrestling can only be, and like often can only be accidentally. To stumble on these like micro gimmicks.
Yeah. And
Bray
really Wyatt
incredible.
too. He kept pushing it too until he actually unfortunately passed about 2 years ago from COVID complications.
Oh my gosh! Again, I had no idea because I'm just not.
Oh, of course, yeah. But it was he was a very like creative force that would do all these kind of like strange gimmicks, and he just kept building. And he had this character called the Fiend at one point where he would have this like Joker mask, like. But that era, the Yellow King, True Detective villain era, is like some of the best. Like really at a time when wrestling could not have been less popular.
It was not at its peak. Yeah,
not at all.
Really, really interesting because I didn't really know that. I didn't have a sense of how high they were riding at that time. So it's really interesting to let these really creative performers kind of try stuff, because when I think of like wrestling, and I think when a lot of people who don't watch it think of wrestling, they think like, when they think of like wrestling gimmicks, it's like, oh, he's a doctor, or like he's the doctor of pain, right, or a soldier or something. And to be like, no, it's this like really fuzzy, creepy, very like auteur driven, specific thing.
Right.
So that could not have been more captivating to me. And then a couple matches later, it's Hugh Jackman and Dolph Ziggler promoting X-Men Days of Future Past, and the audience like could not care less. Like it dies in the ring repeatedly.
Yep.
And
it was that. And that was another part of the it being unpopular. This was at a time for several years where Raw would have guest hosts, where it would be a celebrity or two celebrities that had something to promote that would just be on Raw, and they would try to find ways to work them into the night. And they were like reviled. Like it is the one of the least
it's not hitting at all.
At all, right? Can you pull up the picture that we have? Because one thing there we go. We got
I just saw this, and it is still laugh out loud funny.
Can I be vulnerable with you guys and be honest with me? Did anybody else want that Magneto outfit? Because it looks very cozy. It looks
so
very cozy and warm.
The colors are popping so much that it looks.
I love Magneto. I love Magneto's costume in general. It's one of, I think, the greatest comic book costumes.
I'd wear that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have Magneto played by Damian Sandow, a wrestler at the Who. It does not wrestle anymore, but if you are either of you, Ryan, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I think you should leave fans. With Tim Robinson.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
The 55 burgers, 55 fries, 55. He's the guy who Tim Robinson tries to trick into buying him burgers.
No way. That's so wild.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
That's extraordinary. I do think that this clip does. I mean, this bit does not work at all.
At all.
It falls so flat. But I think he's good in it. Like I think like he understands what he's doing. He's really good at that sort of like oblivious heel thing where he's like, if they're cheering for me. If they're booing the other guy. Like he's really gets it. It's just that like the pieces of this, don't work together.
It's nonsense. It's just nonsense. And
you're
the
right,
like,
Daniel. Yeah.
and I will say the most uncomfortable I felt is when Jackman threw the microphone at him and hits him square in the chest really hard. In a way where I was like, come on, there's no.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously he likes this stuff, but I don't know how much, practice he has.
Not at all. Not at all. And this was his second time being a Raw guest host. And because wrestling is so fluid and fun, when he was on here before this, he was against Dolph Ziggler. Like they were fighting each other.
Yes, they got to bury the hat.
And Ryan, didn't you have a tidbit about that?
Yeah, I'll go really quick. So basically, if you're watching this on YouTube, it was Hugh Jackman versus Dolph Ziggler, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite sort of post WWE wrestlers, talking about reflecting on his time with the company. They had a match, and he told Jackman, like, hit me square in the face. Don't pull it. Like, I need you to hit me as hard as you can. Can you do that? And he told him, yes, I promise I'll do it. And he's like, you have to do it or I could get fired. Like, this needs to sell.
That tracks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's the most believable thing I've heard so far.
If you watch this match and watch this clip, Jackman follows through with that punch and it hits Ziggler square in the jaw, and he dislocated his jaw. And luckily, it was a quick match, but he dislocated his jaw, and he was permanently injured after that punch from Jack.
Good Lord!
Yeah.
I mean, the art that you have up is like, it looks real. The still that's up is pretty revealing.
Yeah.
And Jackman, 3 years later, not as jacked, man. He looks thank you. With Spark, we'll save the applause. We'll add them in later. But he is.
Oh, I just assumed he was really called that. I didn't. I thought that was a reference, not a bit.
His wrestling name. Man.
But he looked kind of thin in the Damien Sandow. Like he looks like he's in between movies and maybe like hydrating himself properly and things.
He's a little sort of like this is what my wife calls women's magazine Jackman, not men's magazine Jackman. He's in like a elegant gray Henley.
Yeah.
Yep. But in the first one, he looks bigger. So that probably he gets some of that heft behind that punch. I'm not surprised he dislocated his jaw.
Right.
One thing I did want to talk about in regard to Dolph Ziggler. So real name is Nick Nemeth. For whatever reason, WWE has this weird fascination where every now and then, he was named Dolph Ziggler, but had kind of like a party guy thing, but still the bleach blonde hair. And it feels like there's some kind of Aryan tilt there that this is something that they actually got in trouble for within the last couple of years. There's a wrestler named Gunter, and they wanted to, he has an Imperium. He has a group called the Imperium. They stand out in black outfits and he's very German. Yeah. He is actually German, but they wanted to give him
with stuff to see if it's going to, a lot of trial balloons in the WWE.
Yes, exactly. But they almost called him something and then realized it was the name of an actual Nazi general. So they had to dial it back and change that.
Magnificent.
These mistakes will happen. These things happen. Yeah, exactly. But with Ziggler, it's clear his name is Dolph Ziggler. He's got the bleach blonde hair and everything, and this is going to come out next week, so there's a very good chance that the person I'm about to reference has already, we found out that he stole money from his grandfather or something like that. But Pete Hegsworth, and I don't care if I got his name incorrect or not, let's pull up a picture of all. They look like the same
Weird
person. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Do not care for that.
A little creepy.
We're we don't have to get super into this stuff, but we are when people listen to this in the future, they will know that Linda McMahon is in the cabinet, probably, right?
Yes. I mean,
probably. this is happening. Like this is a world with a revolving door, and Trump has a very intense and specific relationship with Vince and the company. So yeah, I'm not surprised that there's weird little coincidental, spiritual
insane.
likeness.
Like the man has white nationalist tattoos. Like he is, and every story about him is somehow worse. It's insane.
Yeah.
But I
This
kept
guy's,
looking.
continues.
this guy's bad, and I believe he's being given all of the nuclear weapons. I think they're just going to store them at his house or something.
That sounds right.
So,
Yeah.
we're
Just
in
easier.
good shape.
Yep. Oh God. So that Daniel, if revisiting the Raw for this episode, do you think there's a chance that you will revisit wrestling again anytime soon? Because it is at a kind of renewed popularity culturally. I do think part of that, ironically enough, because some wrestling fans hate it, is that the kayfabe walls have kind of come down. And I think when you're not pretending to be real, people can take you more seriously.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the answer is yes. I think I'll come and go. Hey, I think we got to wrap up. Yes.
Okay,
Wrap it up. Yeah. We're
in
wrapping it up.
In the other room, she has some water.
I'll be there in 2 minutes.
Okay, cool.
All right.
I'm gonna
Have fun. Bye.
Bye.
They say bye too.
Bye.
Nice to meet you. Future.
Yes. Thank you for accommodating that. It's
Of course,
crazy week.
Life is life. Yeah.
Yep.
But to answer your question, I think that having a young child means that anything that I have experienced ever kind of returns to my life in a new context. And I didn't grow up with YouTube, so I show my kid like, hey, you don't know what like air hockey is, you don't know what falconry is. We watch a lot of Misty Copeland. Because you don't really know when you have a kid like what the thing is going to be. So the two things that I noticed through watching this is, one, it'd be really interesting to show it to my child to see that if the color and the physicality and the really pure and broad personalities resonate with her. And two, the thing you said about the kayfabe wall sort of really officially coming down in the past couple of years. I watched this once in standard definition and then once in high definition. And I'm realizing that's the benefit of putting wrestling on a black and white television the size of the palm of your hand, is that it looks real.
Sure.
That is really not an option anymore. Like now you need to teach fans to appreciate the choreography because they see that the blows aren't connecting,
Right.
The technology has, among all of the sort of social, social evolutions of it, the technology has also changed the way people are going to watch this media. So, I would love to, I have a lot of like AEW fan friends, and that seems to be where a lot of the fun is happening right now. But I'd love to dive in, or just really what I'd love to do is just go to like an indie show. I live in Los Angeles, and it'd be great to just like get ahead of something. But because the fans are still so hardcore, like they sell out really fast, and so I think this is always going to be like part of my life as just like, hey, you want to see a cool thing? It's really consistent. It's this like 100-year-old art form that has not changed substantially.
Nope. Really hasn't.
True.
Yeah.
And the door is always open, which is great. Like you can come in and out. I mean, this era when this match took place, the whole Hugh Jackman thing, I didn't watch wrestling for probably a solid 10 years when all that was happening. Cena, never seen a Cena match in my life.
Same. This is the first time I was aware of him as a phenomenon. This was the first time that I'd encountered him. I'm on like a 10-year schedule right now.
If anything, Daniel, I would two things. One, I would recommend there is a famous. It's called a Firefly Funhouse match. It was during COVID, and it was between Bray Wyatt and John Cena, where they have almost an entirely pre-filmed match that has different segments. It's super weird. I think you would really dig it.
Unreal, right up my alley. That's great.
Yep, I think you would absolutely love it. And two, it's funny you mentioned my twins are almost 4 years old. They sat down and watched some wrestling like in earnest for the first time this last Saturday, and were just so deliriously into it, even more than I think I expected, to the point where I was like, yeah, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, and one of my sons was literally going, yay, when the good guy did something, and boo, whenever the bad guy did something, and just had a blast.
That could not be more correct.
Yeah.
That is exactly the process.
That is wrestling in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, thank you so much for giving us your time today. If people want more of you, where can they look?
Oh, gosh. Instagram is the one that I probably use the most consistently. I'm Daniel.Kibblesmith on Instagram. I try to update my website at kibblesmith.com, but I did just notice it's been a year. So, that's a lie. But yeah, and I'm on Blue Sky. I forget how the Blue Sky names work, but you can search for me, and there I am.
We'll link it in the show notes for sure.
Yeah.
Magnificent.
Got you. Ryan, you have some pretty exciting news.
Oh, yeah. I just got
didn't talk about on the last episode. Yeah, please.
Not sure. I got a spin-off television show. I'm a wrestling aficionado fan by day and a ghost hunter by night. And I just got a spin-off show called Haunted Heart and Soul, which I'll be filming in March. Actually, so
incredible! Congratulations!
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Very cool.
And I'm also on Haunted, the regular show that we've been doing, which is going into its 14th season. We'll be filming those back to back, so I feel incredibly fortunate. A little scared, it is a show, but it's
sure, because of the ghosts.
Also ghost hunting, yeah. And I'll tell you, man.
No,
my eyes have been open to a lot when it comes to the supernatural and paranormal. It's been a journey for sure. So I'll be doing that. It's really exciting. But you can find out everything I'm doing. I'm on Blue Sky as well, and the other one too, if you want to follow me there. But yeah. Andrew, what do you got going on, buddy?
As always, you can watch the short film I wrote and directed, Pay the Tithe. That'll on Vimeo. That's in the show notes. That's a spooky one. Joey Esposito was our guest last week, and I want to plug Pedestrian once again because it's a great comic book and you should go read it. And I might need Ryan to cut this part out, but ideally I won't. I have a new short film that I wrote that was directed by friends of the show, Tim Barnes and Jim Fagan, and Tim stars in it as well. It's called Chemistry Test. It should be up today. That's the plan. It's about a guy going in for a chemistry test audition. Like he's already got the gig and it goes poorly. I think that's the easiest way to say it, based on an experience that I had, and you should go watch it. We'll have that in the show notes too. You want something spooky, you watch Pay the Tithe. You want something funny, you can watch Chemistry Test. So that stuff will be out there. And as always, patreon.com/somewhere in the ring. I'm Andrew Sanford on Blue Sky. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Daniel, at the end of our episodes, we like to have our guests ring the bell to send us home. Whatever that means to you, please ring the bell and send us out of here.
Okay, it's going to be a Troy and Abed in the morning mug and a Sharpie. You ready?
Let's go. Yep.
A community reference that just warmed my heart.
Got it in under the wire.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.